Hey everyone, Jeremy Knauff with Spartan Media here. And today we're going to talk about what to do when something unexpected happens during a TV interview. Now, this is a topic that I love because there's so many things that could go wrong. And if you handle them poorly, then that can get really embarrassing really quickly, and it can spread a lot further and faster than you might expect. So we're going to unpack 5 separate topics within this. And the first is what you should do when you have to sneeze. All right. Hopefully you guys never have to sneeze that badly. But there's a few things we can do here. The first is take steps to prevent this. So there's a lot of different nose sprays that you can find, like natural nose sprays, not the medicated kind. Just look them up on Amazon, find something that's, not too harsh. But before you go on air, go ahead and spray a little bit of this in your nose and then blow your nose. That's going to eliminate the chance of this happening by about 99.9%. So this is a preventative measure that stops the problem from happening in the first place. Then let's say you're on air and you feel a sneeze coming on, right? We know what that feels like. We want to take steps to prevent it. So, try not to breathe in or breathe out too heavily, because that kind of moves around the little particles in your nose that are irritating your nasal passages. The other thing you can do is actually pinch your nose. So just go up here, right below the bone. You got your facial bone here. Go right there and just squeeze it real hard for a second. I have found that eliminates the need to sneeze quite frequently. Now, if you do end up sneezing and you just can't stop yourself, don't hold it in. That makes it far more likely that you're going to end up with a snot rocket, and that's never a good look. You also want to turn away from the microphone. So if you've got a microphone that you're holding, or like I've got this one up here, or maybe you've got a lapel mic, right? If you're going on a TV set, what they'll typically do is put a little mic on your collar, and then you've got the little transmitter in your back, right? So just turn your head away from the mic wherever it happens to be, do a quick sneeze, go on about your business, say excuse me, and just move on, right? You can't entirely stop this from happening in some cases, but if it does, just turn away from the mic, sneeze, say excuse me, and move on. A lot of the time, they will end up cutting that out if it's not a live segment. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue for a lot of the shows that you might potentially be on. But if it is a live show, then yes, it will end up airing, but not the end of the world. Unless, like I said, you try to hold it in and then you end up with a snot rocket, and that's not a good look. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is what should you do when you lose your train of thought?
Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral.
Now, this is really easy to do, especially if you're nervous, especially if you're not fully up to speed on the material. So the first step that we do, and this is something we do with all of our clients before they go on TV, is practice, right? We've got the talking points that are going to be addressed. We're going to run through those and just nail that down so they know it super well. Especially when it comes to statistics, maybe certain laws or regulations or, details like that. You have to know this cold. Now, we had an approach in the military for everything that we did. And it's not that you practice until you get it right. It's that you practice until you can't get it wrong. And that is the key to nailing this. Now, you still may get on air, get nervous, and get flustered. If that happens, you're going to have to buy yourself some time to regroup and catch back up with your thoughts. So one way that I have found to be very effective at doing this is to ask for clarification. So they say a thing, you're just about to answer, and then you feel all the thoughts just zip out of your head. So then you respond to them and say, well, what exactly do you mean by that? Now that gives you a few seconds to catch up, regain your train of thought, and get back on track. Now, if you do have one of these, it's almost certainly going to turn into a viral moment. And especially if you're on a hot button topic, right? If you're talking about something with politics or some hot social issue, I promise you it's going to go viral. The people who disagree with you are going to share the hell out of it. And why wouldn't they? You would do the same for the people that you don't necessarily agree with. So this is just the nature of the beast. If that happens, own it, ignore it, and move on. Not much more you can do at that point. Okay, so the next one we're going to cover here is what you should do when nature calls.
The other thing about Kawhi is, you all right, big fella? You all right, catching a cramp?
Go ahead, keep talking, Jeff.
Yeah, we're on TV.
I know what we're doing, go ahead.
Yeah, that's that olive oil you've been drinking.
I know.
Hey, take some matches with you. Hey, listen, he couldn't hold it.
He can't hold it.
After 40.
So, as with the other ones, the first thing we need to do is be proactive and take steps to prevent this from being an issue in the first place. How do we do that? Well, it's not rocket science. Use the bathroom before you're going to go on TV, right? Very simple. But let's say you're in a situation where you're on air, and this can happen a lot more often if you're on air for a long time, right? If you're doing a quick 5-minute TV segment, this is usually not going to be a problem. But for whatever reason, whether it's a longer segment or circumstances are just out of your control for whatever reason, and you feel it coming on, man, squeeze those cheeks. Unless you've got a case of the bubble guts, it's probably just going to be a turtle head poking out anyway. So you're going to be okay. Now, if you can't hold it, I'd rather rush off of set than shit my pants. Either way, if this happens to you, I promise you it's going to go viral and everybody in your circle is going to be talking about it. So just be prepared for that. And then, like I said in the last one, own it, ignore it, and move on. Next, we'll talk about what should you do if someone walks into your background during a remote TV interview.
But the dogs seem to think that the dog days... All
right, so this one's a little bit different. We're not necessarily on set. We're not in a studio. But we still have situations that can occur that can make us look bad. So as usual, we're going to be proactive and take steps to prevent this from happening. So we want to secure our area. So make sure that everyone in your building, whether it's your house, whether it's your office, everybody who's there knows that you're going on a TV interview and they know to be quiet and to leave you alone and not walk into the room. You also need to block off any entrances that are behind you. This will prevent them from accidentally walking in and showing up in your interview. And ideally, I like to stage a guard, for lack of a better term, at any potential entrances to stop anyone who does happen to come in that area. That's going to eliminate people from walking in for the most part. Now, if someone does walk in, what I recommend you do is ignore them, but acknowledge it to the host. And I would do this in a way that's loud enough for the person who walked in to hear it, but don't be overly loud. That's going to be, it's going to draw unnecessary attention to it. But just, I'm sorry, somebody just walked into my background here. I apologize. And then just keep it moving. And when this happens, be careful that you don't lose focus. This is really easy, especially if you're not on TV often. It's easy to lose focus. Now you've lost your train of thought. We talked about that just a couple seconds ago here. Just stay focused. And keep in mind, if someone walks in, if they're fully dressed, unlike the one in the video I just showed you guys, it's probably not going to be much of an issue. Someone walks across your background in their underwear, well, that one's going to go viral, so just be ready for that. And last, we're going to talk about what you should do if you can't stop yourself from laughing.
A Boise, Idaho woman is considered a medical miracle. Laura Esterman was struck by lightning nearly a month ago, and she was considered officially dead. Thankfully, CPR from her mom revived her heart, but she laid in a coma for 2 weeks, and then she defied all odds and woke up.
I should buy
Well, Obviously, there was a problem with that tape. She doesn't really sound like that. She doesn't remember the accident, but the evidence is clear.
All right, look, the reality of this one is sometimes there's nothing you can do to prevent this. And usually it's going to be a case where it's not something that was part of the planned conversation. Somebody just says or does something that is frankly hilarious. So if you feel it coming on, don't try to suppress it, right? It's going to remind you of that episode of Beavis and Butthead, for those of you who are old enough to remember that show, where they're just like trying to hold in the laugh and they just look utterly ridiculous. Just laugh, get over it, and move on. Assuming this is something funny and not something horrible, people will understand. And frankly, they'll probably be laughing alongside of you. So just own it, embrace it, and then continue on. And again, as with, somebody walking into the background, just try not to lose focus. If you lose focus and get derailed, then that can make other issues pop up. So just laugh and move on, man. It's not that serious. All right. Hope you guys found these useful. If you did, I'd love it if you'd share them with someone. Be sure to drop a comment. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.